right. Good morning, jungle people. It's that time again, and today is part 2 of the marriage talk series, and today I'll be talking about after the ring. But before I start, I just want to say to God, I thank you for another opportunity to be able to speak to your people, to bring a word that may help somebody's marriage, because we know that marriage is a ministry. And so we just stand steadfast, know, Lord, that you'll continue to open up our understanding and to fight for our marriages, because marriage is honorable and the devil does not like marriages. So I'm here to just arm others with information that is needed to push them forward and to fight this good fight. All right, so I have about 6 points today. I have my notebook again. One thing that we spoke about last week is that living a purposeful marriage, right? And I had mentioned in Ephesians 5:22-23 and verse 33. And remember what we spoke about, that you're supposed to love your spouse as God loves the church. That's his men. Love your wives, and wives are supposed to submit to their husbands and reverence their husband. So that is the first principle that I would to put on the table if we were speaking about what happens after the ring. So make Ephesians 5:22-23 and 33 the main focus of your marriage. The second thing is that you would need to learn your partner's love language. And love languages, that's a book, or I want to say a thesis that was put forward by Gary Chapman, and he has a book that outlines the different love languages. And there's also a website where you can go and to do the test to find out what your love language is, and you could also do that test with your spouse to see what their love language is. And what that basically does is that if we begin to meet or to speak the love language of our spouse, then it becomes easier. The relationship becomes easier for you. So for example, my husband is gifts, right? And for me, receiving gifts. So that would mean, just giving him something just because, but just to, a just because gift. So that would be something that he would look forward to and appreciate. And another thing is my main love language is words of affirmation. So for me, I love poems and roses and all of those wonderful things too. But learn your partner's love language so that you can speak it efficiently. And another scripture I'd like to point out is Ecclesiastes 4:9-12, and this is basically speaking about teamwork, that two is better than one. So when you're on one accord, your home life flows better. Everything flows better when you're on one accord. And there's another verse that speak about the threefold cord, that it cannot be broken. And I know that a lot of persons at their weddings, they do the 3-strand cord that signifies God, the husband, and the wife. And what that is basically saying to me is that you should not have outside influences in your marriage. You should not be including other person's opinions too much in your marriage. I mean, it's fine if you're going to counseling and you're getting counseling from somebody who is objective, but be very careful not to include other persons in your marriage. So for all of us who love to run and talk about our problems to people, stop it. Because I found that when I stopped talking to people about, what was happening to me, and, you look at things they want to talk about, I realized that when I stopped doing that and started to pray and fast more about marriage, that I found that, it works out better, because sometimes the same persons you're talking to are sowing seeds of discord in your marriage. And a lot of persons don't even believe that, some arrows and some darts that are, thrown at you is from persons who are close to you and persons who know you. So I would advise that bear in mind the threefold cord, God, husband, and wife, and keep out unnecessary interference in your marriage. And number 4, we spoke about it last week. Remember God's order, where for the family is God, husband, wife, and your children. That's number 4. We spoke about that at length last week, because yes, God needs to be the head, and the husband needs to be that covering over his family also. And wives, I'm just imploring you also that you should also take the time to pray for your spouse. Pray for your spouse, because trust me, what is happening out there right now, because you have so many things to battle with. 1, the devil does not like marriage, and 2, you have strange women out there who are looking at your marriage, looking at your husband, looking at your wife, whoever, strange men looking at your wife. And it is so important that we stay in prayer and fortify our houses, that nothing can infiltrate your unit so easily. So I would advise wives to pray about the friends that your husband has. I mean, are you comfortable with your husband being around entirely single people who know nothing about marriage and giving him marriage advice, who are not married and who have disgusting relationships? I'm just asking. So you have to pray about his friends, pray about his mind, pray about his body, his soul, pray about his salvation, pray about him being able to make the right choices, being the head of the house. Pray about those things and cover him every morning before he goes out to work. Cover his car, cover his desk, cover his cubicle, cover his office. Just send the angels forth every morning before your spouse goes off to work, before I'm stepping in the car. Alright? Wives, you are the mother hen, I would say. The mother hen and the spiritual covering sometimes for your household. If your husband is not, if your husband is not saved, you are that spiritual covering, and you're supposed to be that, that backative for him. So play that role well and embrace that role well, because what's happening out there is no easy feat for a man. All right. Number 5, husbands, protect your favor. You say when you find a wife, you find a good thing and you obtain favor in the sight of the Lord, right? So husbands, this is especially for you. See, when God give you a wife, when you get a wife, you realize that your whole life changes. You realize that you start to prosper, you start to get jobs, you start to get promotion, you start to get house, car, land, wealth. But if you don't treat your favor right, if you get up and you are abusing your favor, you're deep in infidelity, you're having all kinds of affairs out there, and causing your favor to sit and cry before God, that never ends well. So I'm just imploring husbands to take care of the favor that God has placed in your life, because when you mistreat your favor, remember me tell you, so don't go down that road there. Don't mistreat a favor, because at the end of the day, when you mistreat a favor, all those blessings that you got, remember me I tell you, so them are gonna disappear. All right. Number 6 is something that's, wow, how do you deal with the crazes of marriage? How do you deal with conflict, infidelity, attacks on the household? And what do you do if you're married into a family of that has, generational curses? And remember when I spoke before that you need to be, before the ring, you need to be fasting and praying and going through deliverance? That is exactly what I meant, because when you don't do that, you enter into marriage and the crazes follow you. So you have conflicts and infidelity. Why? Because it could be that there's a spirit spouse at play. And how do you know this? I've been learning that you can know if you have a spirit spouse by the dreams that you have, and how your relationship pans out. Sometimes you just get up one day, you're good, the next day you get up and it's like you just hate your spouse for no good reason. It could be that you need to start to pray about spirit spouses. And sometimes there are witchcraft, witches out there who are sending arrows and darts to your marriage. because the main aim of the enemy is that he does not want marriages to succeed. Because trust me, especially if you're in ministry, and if the both of you are married and saved and your household is in alignment, that's a powerful force that the enemy does not like. So it has to sow discord. So what you'll have to do is to always be vigilant and know these things. When you see them, you know how to pray against them. And especially for generational curses, some things you realize it's a cycle. I mean, you get money, but the money, you can't hold on to money, and that's a spirit of poverty. There's just a you realize that generations before you battle the same infirmity, and you find that you're married now and your children having the same sickness. That's a spirit of infirmity that you need to break off of your family. And sometimes there are some things that your ancestors or persons before you would have indulged in, like witchcraft, obeah, voodoo, and those things contribute to certain problems later on down the line. And one main thing I would speak to is sometimes, for example, infertility and miscarriages. Sometimes there is something that play before even your bloodline that is affecting your womb. And I'm imploring you guys that sometimes you need to just go back and denounce in prayer some things that you may not even know that your forefathers were indulging in. Sometimes you have to go back and sit down, and you have to go and renounce some things, even if you don't think that you need to. So some things, when you see some things happening in your marriage and in your life and your family life, there are some things that were put in place by your forefathers because they were either going after money, wealth, greed, and it is normally, you know, a situation where somebody down the line in the generation is still paying for those mistakes. Because when you wrap up in witchcraft and obeah and voodoo, it is never a good end, because there is something that there's a price that you have to pay. There's a price you have to pay when you wrap up and you're going to bed with witchcraft. You have to pay a price, and it's sometimes the life of your future generation. So, you know, just for everything fun aside, you know, I realize that some women, after you get married, right, you just let go yourself. You know, do your hair again, you know, take care of yourself. It's all about taking care of the family. Nothing's wrong with that, but at the same time, don't lose your individuality after you've gotten the ring. Yes, you need time together, but sometimes you need time apart to explore other things that interest you, because that is how you keep sane. You cannot be around somebody 24/7 all the time. You know, the people them face, you know, the people them son face, you know, the people them daughter face every day, so, and you not have no life for yourself. Find a hobby, find something to do, something to occupy your time and your brain space, because when you not have nothing else to do, you find all manner of evil to take up on your head. So you start to wonder if this person is doing something because, I mean, they no longer want to be around you all the time. It's not a matter of that. Sometimes people need their space to pursue other things that interest them. It doesn't mean that they're cheating. All right, just get that out there. It doesn't mean that they're cheating. Sometimes your spouse needs to explore other things so that you can enrich your union and so forth. And I just want to say that be a good example to your children. Show your children what it is like to have a good marriage. Don't be in front of your children arguing all the time, fighting all the time. If there's something that needs to be addressed, you take it to counseling, and don't do it in front of your children. What else other nitpicks I could tell you, because I've been married for 7 years and it has not all been rosy and peachy. Some days you wish, you know, what were you thinking? Because sometimes the warfare is so much, sometimes it's just too much, and you're like, did I make the right decision? But then I realized that you have to go through certain things at certain periods, certain cycles, and to get a better understanding of yourself and to know how to fight. And for those of you who have been You know, if you've been through marriage already and it wasn't successful, don't give up hope. Don't give up hope. All right, you've gone down that road, it didn't end favorably, but don't lock off yourself away from finding love again, because you know the story is not over until God says it's over. I just wanted to add, I don't know where that came from, but if you've been down that road and you've been hurt, don't diss me. All right, so I'm gonna wrap it up there, and I pray that you guys were blessed and have a good day, good week. Enjoy. Bye. You know, I forgot to add that even though after when I'm married, y'all need to go on dates, you need to explore, you know, do fun things. While you were courting, you were out at dinner, you were out gallivanting, going to the movies. Don't ever stop doing that once you've been married, and especially if you have children, cut out and carve out that time for even a date night. All right, so